talk about ranked battles, because this is one of the cool new content that we introduced recently, and there are a lot of people who were waiting for it. It's basically endgame content, and it's also something that a lot of people wanted, like basically skilled matchmaking to a certain point, right? So can you maybe talk about the thought process behind why you guys introduced this kind of new mode?
Well, you know, every good question is two-thirds of the answer, right?
Exactly.
So you started with, yes, it is an endgame content, and we definitely wanted to provide our players with them. Secondly, we have lots of competitive players. We have lots of people who like to measure how good they are against someone else. And normally the standard battle does not really allow them to do that. I mean, yes, they can feel, many of them can feel that they are strong. They're stronger than, I don't know, half of the audience. But in order to be able to, like, to really face-to-face, manly measure how they are capable of doing things against the people of the same skill, they have no such tool, so now we are providing one.
And so I already also told everyone that we had the first season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to have some more seasons coming up. The second season is already announced, as far as I know, right?
Yes, we actually called the first one Pilot 1, you know, like in TV shows a little bit. Few new things, few things that people were thinking of or asking us for, like, for example, kind of skill-based matchmaking. It's not really skill-based, it's rank-based matchmaking, but the things are pretty new to the game, and we were really interested to try it and test it on a massive amount of people before we will say, yes, that's exactly it. That's what we want to have in the game for years to come. And that's why the first season is Pilot 1 or Beta 1, and this one season is Beta 2 for us. It's still a test, something we'll learn based on the information gathered over the course of the first season. We want to try this in Pilot 2, and then probably next year, early next year, to go with a full-scale launch.
And are you guys planning incremental changes, so one at a time basically, or are you going to introduce something new once the beta phase ends?
Well, it will depend, actually. It will depend on what exactly data we will assemble from the game, and from the audience, from the players. Mm-hmm. For now, between Beta 1 and Beta 2, we were doing incremental changes one at a time in one area. So one change to a matchmaker, one change to maps, one change to whatever else, one change to this rules, to that rules. Just not to produce too much chaotic information we cannot analyze and compare between two different seasons.
Okay, so I've seen a lot of questions about one thing on the forums. I mean, a lot of things, but this was always cropping up. So basically, we are always telling people that we are using these beta phases to test new stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But then players tell me that we have the common test, we have the sandbox. So why are we not testing these changes on those test servers?
There are two principal reasons for that. Reason number one, people behave extremely differently while playing on sandbox or on a common test. So it is mathematically correct to compare them with themselves, so common test with common test or sandbox with sandbox, but it's incomparable. It's a trash data if you will compare it with a real production. And that's why some things are really bad to test on a common test. We're trying hard not to do that, because we are not really sure all the time. It's kind of messy. The second big reason, seasons are kind of long, and we tune in both length and intensity. And for a sandbox, for example, to run for a month or for 4 weeks, it's very hard. It's very hard for everyone, for our audience, for the amount of engagement or investment people are eager to do into something very temporary. And then saying, okay, you didn't get the invitation to Sandbox, and that's why you didn't get the prize that we will issue people for their time invested. It will be very, very unfair towards many people. So that's why we decided to go kind of soft launch it, or as I said, a TV show pilot series. If people like it, we'll go with it. If people don't like it, well...
It's basically a game mode. You can choose whether you want to play it or not, right?
Kind of, yes.
Okay. but a lot of players actually liked it a lot. I mean, the concept, they might criticize some of the smaller details that you guys are also looking into, obviously, but they like the game mode as far as I could see. So my question then is, what are you actually looking at? What kind of changes are you considering?
Again, two parts to this answer. Part number one, we would like to provide as fair experience as is only possible without provoking specific sorts of behaviors. And we saw over the season one that the battles went a little bit too static than we would like them to be. The explanation is pretty simple. I mean, when you match together 30 guys who are really, really good, who really understands the tactics, the choreography of the battle, who tend to play carefully, who tend to capitalize on every error the enemy are doing, they tend to be static. They're waiting who will move first, who will do the first error. And the rules we had for season one, they were sort of supporting this a little bit too much than we like it to be.
Yeah, we have seen this on the forums actually.
Yes, with 3 top guys from the losing team getting the chevron towards the next rank, we were kind of provoking them to do more of that. And towards the last cycle, the last week, we had this very slow, very inactive battle. So we're trying to change that a little bit. We do not want to push people, to clash crazily. Secondly, there were lots of feedbacks that we heard that some people are capable of getting to rank 5 through grind only. Exactly. This is probably another part that is visible for you as well.
Yeah.
It's not intentional, like for real. We want to reward a very high effort. If someone is really trying really, really hard, he should get something for that. However, we also would like to have more skilled, more equal, in a sense of skill, audience competing on the top ranks for the top spots for Division 1, for Division 2, Division 3. So right now we are also changing a little bit the rules, the amount of chevrons you need to get in between different ranks in order to sort of provide the most fair filter possible. And again, we do have a very complicated mathematical model. For season 2, it's much better than for season 1 because right now it's based on the real information, real data. However, any model is just a hypothesis. One of the famous military commanders said that any plan exists only up to the point you will face the battle, right? The real situation. So it's just like that. So we modeled the situation, we tested it, we figured out where we were a little bit imprecise. We modified the model, we modified the rules based on that model, and now we would like to see how well it will work. If it will fit perfectly well, catering boss issues I was just talking about, making battles a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more aggressive, and at the same time ensuring that we will have a real fair competition on top ranks. Bingo, we did it.
So something that's related to this basically is that a lot of players think that we should introduce some kind of an ELO system. Do you think that what we have currently, if you tweak it like you just said, is it something that's going to work out the same way basically, that people who are really, really skilled can come up to the top without the grinds?
So we were thinking a lot, trying to choose the right system for ranked battle. Our main reason to choose rank-based matchmaking over ELO-based matchmaking was it's significantly more clear to more people. It's very understandable when I'm rank 5. It's very different from being rank 4. While how much ELO 2222 better than ELO 2196? It's very hard to measure. So for now, we believe that this system is good enough. It will provide with a changes we are doing for beta 2, it will provide enough contrast in between different ranks and different experiences. Still, it's beta. Elo algorithms are pretty well known. If we will see that this is exactly the way we need to go based on experience of basically 2 months of combined effort of us and our players, then maybe, who knows? It's heavily based on how we will.
That sounds good. So can we talk about a little bit about maps? Because I also seen people mentioning that certain maps can be imbalanced when it comes to ranked battles especially. So are we looking into maps as well, and maybe something that we could change in the future if it's actually needed?
So we changed 2 things regarding maps this time. First off, we changed the set, the amount of maps the matchmaker for ranked will pull maps from. And secondly, we tweaked the algorithm, practically re-implemented the algorithm we are using right now on standard battle matchmaker that will provide players with significantly better map rotation. We also changed the content of that set, so we pulled some maps out, added some more new maps. Because again, the beauty about ranked is when you put the 30 super skilled guys with extreme map knowledge to the map, they will work like, you know, a fine scientific test on the even minor inequality and balance of that map. We removed 2 maps that we consider the worst out of the pool, and added extra maps to make the pool more diverse. And I know that many people are asking on forums that why we're adding more maps, and this is exactly linked to this pooling algorithm that allows more diversity. It requires a specific amount of maps in the stack in order to provide you with enough choices, with enough different experiences.
Okay, so it's actually ranked battles helps us to find the small imbalances in maps, and it might actually help with maps in general, right?
Yes, you can say it this way. We definitely will look, we are learning, and we are studying the hit maps that were produced over the ranked battle season 1 in order to validate, to figure out what's every imperfection.
That's cool. Okay, let's go to another important topic, I guess. It's bonds and improved equipment. I almost managed to pronounce that. So this was introduced with ranked battles initially,
yes.
right? It was the reward that you could get for reaching certain ranks in ranked battles. So how did it work out? What are we going to look at? How do you guys see that at this point?
So first off, the value of the new currency is established. People do want bonds. This is good. We definitely want, and this is already in motion. The next patch, people will see new ways to earn bonds, and we are planning to add more of them. So the next patch, every tier 12 battle in standard battle, and every grand battle where players get enough experience, will provide them with some bond rewards. This is just the first step for us. We are looking into adding more ways to earn them for different audience preferences based on what exactly you like to play or to do more in game. They are not part of a ranked battle per se. Think about it as end game reward mechanism. And in making it in the form of a currency allows us to give people a chance to choose the rewards they would like the most. Not saying this is like, I don't know, a tank or a pack of consumables or a customization or something else that you will get if you do that. But saying you will get, I don't know, 100 bonds or 500 bonds or 5,000 bonds, and based on this you can choose any reward or any combination of rewards that are available for bonds. So both number of sources and amount of different rewards and rewards diversity will increase over time.
So this is basically another layer of customization for your tank. So you have normal equipment, and then you have improved equipment. or something else that you can buy for bonds?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, you know probably that this was one of the complaints from players, that initially when this was introduced, it was only available for ranked battles, right? So a lot of people thought that this gives an unfair advantage to certain players. So why did we go ahead? Why did we introduce it only with ranked battles initially?
Introducing a thing like improved equipment to the game is indeed somewhat dangerous, and we picked ranked battles as a tool where we do have a pretty strict control on the amount of stuff we will give away. And we were very sure that even if we made a big mistake, it will not distort the experience for everybody else way too much. And we will be able to look into how it changed the game, if it did, on a real live data, on the real battles, real people. So everybody who were provided with rewards were warned ahead of the time in articles and forums and videos that this is, as it is beta, this is potentially a subject to change. We could retract them and pay back bonds, or change this equipment and pay back bonds to everybody in case something will go wrong. So yes, for now it looks like people who perform really well in ranked will be stronger. But as I said, as we will introduce more ways to earn bonds, that will equalize itself out, and at the same time providing us with a pretty strict, controlled way to test how good it fits, how well it corresponds to the modeling that we were doing, and how well it will serve as a end game reward for people who invest their soul and time and effort into our game.
So this basically ties in with what we said before. This is why we are testing these kind of stuff, because you guys want to test it on a large player base, but it also has to be kind of controlled.
Large player base that behaves the way it normally behaves.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it is very, very bad idea to make conclusions or draw conclusions based on how people play on a common test. People tend to try something new, try something crazy, shoot 100% gold, drive tanks they never did on tier 10, and they maybe never did controlled any tank before that one. So it's extremely distorted, extremely chaotic. It's great to test, like sandbox, let's say, it's great to test something subjective. Like, guys, did you like the idea? It works. Common test is great to test a technical readiness for a patch. It is a good marker if something goes really, really, really wrong. Perceptually, again, we expected this tank to be very different, or we do not like this map, we hate it, or new interface is super crazy and confusing. Things like that could be tested on a common test. Mass-based, balance-related stuff, generally no. If we are, for some reason, forced to touch stuff after a common test, it means that we made some miscalculation earlier on.
So I guess this is nice about World of Tanks and these kind of games in general, that you can, that's basically, it's a work in progress, right? You can always change stuff even if it's already on the live server. It's a bit harder, but basically you go through all the different phases of testing and then you can still tweak stuff.
Yeah, theoretically, yes. Of course, we need to be very careful. I mean, giving something to someone and then trying to take it back is extremely painful. So we are trying not to do a mistake, but we need to be ready. I
mean, ranked battles, if you look at it, it's already really cool, I think. So you are already dealing with something that's completely playable, it's great, and then you can still tweak it so that it's even cooler in the long run,
yes,
right?
Absolutely, of course.
Okay. There was one other thing that was mentioned a lot in relation to ranked battles when people were discussing the bonds and the improved equipment, and that's customization. So can you maybe talk about why you decided not to go with customization and you went instead with something that you can apply to your tanks or improved equipment?
So probably it is the most connected to the fact that we are an international product that is running worldwide, and different regions have a very different perception of what reward is and how valuable or non-valuable certain things are. So, for example, the rock cultures were numerical kind of value, numerical advantage perceived as valuable, while cosmetic modification, perceive it as just an addition. You know, like badges, for example, they could be very valuable for some players or some countries or even some continents, regions, while not being valuable whatsoever for others. So we try to create a universal reward that will feel meaningful for everybody, and something that makes your tank, tweaks your tank, makes it a little bit better, allows you in combination with instructions to be slightly more tuned towards the play style you prefer, is something that everybody understands equally well or sees as equally valuable.
No?
That's one of the big reasons. It doesn't mean that we are not going to introduce more customization rewards. As I said, a potential amount of different things that you will be able to get for bonds will grow.
Okay, that's cool. I like my customization options, to be honest. Okay, I have another question that's kind of in detail with ranked battles. So a lot of people felt that they wanted to have more than just tier 10 with ranked. Is this only going to be like endgame content, or are you going to maybe introduce other stuff as well in the future?
Well, you know, for several last years we had this bad reputation of making promises and not making for those promises, right? So I wouldn't answer any question like that before I will have something feasible on my hands in order to say, yes, this will be shipped, it is good enough and it will be shipped at that particular point of time. So maybe, we'll see.
Yeah, looking at options, right?
It will depend on how well it will go, how well people will play, how much we will see the desire to try different tiers and so on and so forth. But so far, we believe that we need to provide a little bit more value to achieving, to grinding, to getting into your tier 10 and making something that will kind of reward you for being able to do that. Not just standing where you feel the most comfortable for you. However, doesn't mean that we are not looking into it.
Okay, fair enough. One more question for basically the last question. Is there anything else that you could share with us from the future of ranked battles, what you guys have planned? Or did we mention everything?
Well, again, talking about plans is a little bit dangerous, right? So we hope that based on 2 pilots, 2 beta seasons, we will be able to understand really finally what it is, and starting next year made it regular activity with a fixed amount of seasons per year, with a clear schedule, so people will be able to plan for basically for their life if they want to really participate into that, because it might be connected with significant time investment, and we do not want to make it unexpected. We do not want to make someone super frustrated because he was not aware. So for now, these 2 things are coming as they come. Starting the next year, hopefully we will be able to schedule them properly and announce that schedule at the beginning and say how it's gonna be. So this is the plans we see so far. But as it's live thing, if we will find something super unexpected during beta 2, this might change. So just to be warned.
Thank you very much for the conversation. I think that we actually learned a lot about ranked battles. I hope that it actually answered a lot of questions the players had.